Well, howdy there, Internet people. It's Bo again. So today we're going to talk about legislation at the state level and a concept called readiness, and how sometimes legislation can impact readiness. And we are also going to talk about reaching the find out portion of the show. For more than a year on this channel, I have talked about how legislation that is being passed in a lot of red states is bad for the military. It hinders something called readiness, which is exactly what it sounds like. The force's ability to do its job. Because there are bases in these red states. And let's say the state targets a certain demographic, and a soldier has a dependent who's part of that demographic. Well, that soldier can't go there anymore, can't go to that base. That base starts to impact readiness. That base gets closed. I've talked about it for more than a year. There will be links down in the description. So, the first step that occurs is these bases don't get selected to be expanded. They don't want to invest somewhere that is hostile to their troops. They don't want to send them somewhere where they can't get health care. The next step is moving components of that base, out of the state. Eventually the base closes. And all of the economic activity that base generates, well, that's gone too. There's a whole bunch of communities all over red states that are dependent on those military installations. Huntsville, Alabama, you apparently get to be the example. Currently, I think officially anyway, Space Force headquarters was going to be at Redstone. Doesn't look like that's going to happen. Does not look like that's going to happen. The Biden administration is apparently on board with it. I know there are some politicians saying that the Biden administration did it. I don't think that's likely. I don't think that they said don't put it there. I think that Space Force, which is under the Department of the Air Force, which if you watch the videos that'll be in the description, you'll see they were the first branch, they were the first department to come out and kind of fire a warning shot and say, hey, you can't do this to our people. I feel like it was probably their decision and the Biden administration is backing them up. But it looks like Space Force headquarters will be in Colorado now. I'm sure it's just a coincidence that Alabama has one of the most restrictive laws when it comes to reproductive rights, and they have targeted the LGBTQ community. I'm sure that's just a coincidence, has nothing to do with what's happening, right? It's worth noting that one of the officials quoted in the reporting said, "This is all about abortion politics." That's wrong. It's also about targeting the LGBTQ community. But abortion politics has a whole lot to do with it. When installations are selected, it's the military. Everything runs on charts and checklists. When you're looking for a place to put a new headquarters, you run through the checklist. Is there room for growth? Is it close to airports? Does it have good schools? Is there good access to health care? It's on the chart. It's on the checklist. No joke. All of these laws, they were not on the books when Huntsville got selected. They are now. That's what's changed. Now, I'm sure the Republican politicians are going to try to fight this. And maybe Maybe they can structure some legal argument to force Space Force to put something at Redstone because it was already selected. Maybe they can stand a chance. But make no mistake about it, this is step one. And just to be clear, the only reason they might be able to force it is because it was already selected. Installations that are in states with laws like this, they will never be selected again. That opportunity for the politicians to intervene and force it to happen, it's never going to happen again. The bases don't complete the checklist anymore. The bases impact readiness. They're not going to invest in them. They're not going to expand them. Your politicians needed a wedge issue. They needed somebody to point at and say, look down at them so you don't pay attention to me. And it energized the base. They got elected. This is the consequence. When those laws went through, this was pretty much guaranteed. And it doesn't stop. Understand, the lack of investment in states with these kinds of restrictions, the Department of Defense is going to continue to do this until those restrictions go away. And it's not because they have a political stance on it. It's because it impacts readiness. It impacts recruitment. It impacts retention. It impacts where people can be sent. It impacts the dependents. It impacts quality of life. Y'all did this. The politicians who pushed this, those who supported them, y'all did this. Y'all need to take a real hard look at the areas around military installations that have closed and what happens once that economic activity is gone. Because if you don't change the laws, it's the future. And it's not a political thing. It's because you're literally hurting the military. Anyway, it's just a thought. Y'all have a good day.